I just finished Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I didn't love it. And that's heartbreaking to say. I'm a massive fan of Final Fantasy VII Remake. That game, I'm sure, changed my brain chemistry forever. I now have just like passwords and things I need to survive on a daily basis, and the other half of my brain is just Cloud cross-dressing because it's incredible. Needless to say that I was extraordinarily excited about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. When they started showing trailers in Summer Games Fest, I just couldn't believe my eyes. It just looked like the most incredible game in the universe. I played it, and I didn't love it. It hurts to say. It hurts for me to say these words out loud, but it's true, and I'm gonna tell you what I feel. First things first, the game has a rough opening. Not like main opening, like they have the demo out right now. You can play it. It's a flashback sequence. It's really good. But once the game actually starts, the first like 13 hours of the game is just a lot of nothing, in my opinion. It feels very bloated, and like they want you to be involved in this open world, but they're not really giving me much to go off of. The character thrusts are not there. There's no like massive avalanche terrorist attack. Instead, you're running around and exploring this new open world that they have graciously given upon the Final Fantasy world, and it feels like it's there just to be there. The open world segments are serviceable at best to get you around from point A to point B, but once you actually start to investigate the icons that are on your screen, you start to realize that they're all the same. You are going to an area, you fight a bunch of beasts, then you climb up a ladder, press a button, oh, it was a tower, now you got a bunch more icons to go to. Once you go to those icons, then you realize that you have to fight more people, or maybe crack a crystal and follow a bird, and then, oh, now you gotta press a few buttons in a sequence, and yeah, you're not really getting much variety from the actual open world segments. There are towns that have like actual side missions and things to do and mini games, and those are way more interesting, but the wide majority of the game, at least in terms of volume, is open world segments, and they're not doing it for me. I can see how some people who maybe are putting podcasts in or like listening to music or just want to grind, absolutely, sure, go ahead. I'm sure you're going to have a good time. But for me, just playing the game, enjoying it, not listening to music in the background, it is really bizarre because these characters are not talking to each other. And that's the thing, is like Final Fantasy VII characters are so amazing. Like these characters are so full of life. Seeing them all interact is just a delight in the story, in the actual side missions. But when you're running around in the open world, they're not talking to each other. When you're clearing off the checklists of, hey, I gotta do this thing in this region and fight these beasts, they're not having conversations, even slight little, hey, how you doing? Oh, my arm is hurting. Like nothing at all to push the story forward or just the character interactions or make them feel like real characters in a video game. They're just silent. A lot of this game feels like it is not in service to pushing the plot forward or pushing the characters forward. A lot of it feels like it's there just to expand the runtime of the video game. Like when you get deeper into the game, there are so many moments where I'm having a great time. Like I'm really invested in the story, I'm really invested in the gameplay, and then there's just an hour and a half segment that is just nonsense. It is picking up the box, throwing it at a thing. Truly, when I'm reviewing a video game, when I'm playing a video game, what am I looking for? I'm looking for fun. I'm looking for, especially in an RPG like this, I'm looking for the amount of fun I'm having, the amount of excitement that I'm experiencing from this game, and I'm not experiencing much until I am. Then I'm experiencing the most fun and excitement that I've ever felt in a video game, and then just monotonous whatever. It is just bloated. Like there's 20 hours in this game that I really think are incredible. If you take these 20 hours and you condense it into a more linear, more straightforward game like Final Fantasy VII Remake, and we just call a spade and say, hey, we only have 20 hours of gameplay. The game is $50. It's 20 hours. It's a stopgap between this one and the next one. That would be a much more compelling ask than looking at me and saying, hey, we got 40 hours of great moments and then some pretty okay to meh moments that you're just kind of slogging through. And I know I'm going to be alone in this opinion, at least from the hardcores. The hardcore Final Fantasy people, I'm sure, are going to love this because it is the characters that you already know, right? Like, so you're dropping these characters that you love into these worlds. Like, of course, it's going to be fun. But for me, somebody who, again, has no connection to these characters at all other than Final Fantasy VII Remake, I'm still getting to know them. I still want to understand their kind of backstories and what they're doing. A lot of it just felt flat. And there are great moments for specifically characters like Barrett and Red 13 where you get to learn their backstories, and that's really, really great. But a lot of the stuff around it just doesn't feel like it's in service of those moments. It just kind of feels like, hey, we're doing something to do it. Some positives: the music is incredible. I'm not a music person at all. I don't listen to music soundtracks. I don't even notice that music is happening most of the time in video games, but the music is just so standout to the point where, like, as soon as this is available physical, I am going to buy it. It is incredibly beautiful. Like, the orchestral arrangements of the Chocobo song are moving me to tears as I'm just running around an empty open world. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, the music in every single element is awesome. And also the boss fights, like, they know what they're doing in that sense. There are so many amazing spectacle situations and fights, beautiful sceneries. I really felt like I was in this world, and they do a great job, especially after only 4 years of going from remake to this now. It is just impeccable work. When we're talking about why I didn't love Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I need to mention the ending. And I'm not going to spoil it, I'm not going to say anything, but the ending to me does the opposite of what Remake's ending does. Remake's ending, no spoilers here again for that too either, but like, Remake's ending is a promise of an interesting future that you never really expected these games would do, right? It kind of turns everything on its head. And Rebirth kind of just breaks everything in a way that is not satisfying or exciting for me as somebody who is a newcomer to this franchise, for lack of a better term. And now, sadly, I'm less excited for the next Final Fantasy game comparatively before I even played this game, and that's not a great place to be, and that kind of breaks my heart. So yeah, I don't know how to finish this video because there's no like perfect cherry I can put on top of this other than I hope that the next game is more focused, right? I hope that this was the moment of, hey, we have certain key moments we need to get to, but it's not 40 hours. We want to sell a $70 video game. Let's expand it. Let's kind of bloat it up as much as possible. Make this a big, massive game, so then potentially for the next game, we can go back to having a more linear standpoint. I hope that this is not the trajectory for the final game, and that the next game can be a little bit more focused. Honestly, I hope that they stick the landing, because after playing the ending of this game, it feels like we're going full Kingdom Hearts, and not in a great way, from somebody who just wants to experience this world and love it and be a part of it. It feels like it's getting a bit too wild for me, and I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna play the next game, but it's probably not going to be my most anticipated game of that year. Also, I did a full review podcast over on Kinda Funny Games with Tim, Imran, and Blessing, where we talked all about it, and we had a good old time. Or didn't, because I'm recording this beforehand. Maybe we fought to the death.